That's what it was.
I'm calling to order the Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee. Roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Buffy?
Present.
Mr. Davis? Present. Ms. Edmondson? Present. Mr. Garvey? Ms. Holloway? Present. Dr. Jones?
Present.
Ms. Lewis?
Present.
Ms. Orange-Jones?
Present.
Mr. Rock?
Present.
Dr. Thomason?
Present.
Ms. Boucher?
Here.
And Mr. Bowman?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. What's our first item?
Your consent agenda is ready for your approval, adding items 4.1 through 4.5.
So I have a motion by Ms. Boucher and a second by Mr. Rock. Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. What's our next item?
Your first item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of an update report regarding Jumpstart graduation pathways. The recommendation is to receive the report regarding the 2018 cohort. Backup documentation has been distributed.
So moved.
So I have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Ms. Boucher. Thank you very much. So this is to receive a report. Superintendent, are you providing that report?
I am, or I'm going to have Ken Bradford provide the report, actually.
Okay.
We have a brief set of statistics to share. It was requested that we come and present on the current status of the Jumpstart initiative, and Ken is going to outline just a set of brief statistics. We're in this now 5 years, and I think that was the impetus for the requested presentation. Looks like Ernice Singleton will be joining Ken as well.
Ken Bradford, Office of Student Opportunities Assistant Superintendent, and my colleague, Dr. Ernice Singleton, will be navigating the slides. So this is a Jumpstart implementation update, and we're going to go back in time here real quick to the 2012-2013 school year. At that point in time, there was 3 diplomas that were available to our high school students once they entered a high school campus. We had a Core 4 high school diploma. That was your college preparatory diploma. And as I describe each of these diplomas, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to plant the seeds for why in 2013 the board adopted a new diploma structure. So the first one was our Core 4 diploma. That was your college preparatory diploma. Had 77% of our students were on that at the time. 49% of the students that graduated that diploma were going to college, and only 19% of the students that were going to college actually graduated in 6 years. This particular diploma structure, which was our college-going diploma, it did not align with Board of Regents admission standards, nor did it align with TOPS. And we had situations where students were walking across the stage at graduation thinking they had a college diploma to take them to one of our 4-year universities, but it didn't align with TOPS. And they found out, wow, I've just taken a college diploma in Louisiana, but I can't get TOPS because my coursework isn't the right coursework. The second diploma we had, and there were 22% of our students on this diploma, that was a basic diploma. And you went to high school for 4 years, you took English, math, science, and social studies courses, but they were not necessarily college prep courses, nor were they career education courses. And the last diploma was our career diploma. And the career diploma, we had 1% of the students in 2013 that were graduating with a career diploma. It was mostly students of color. And the students, when we looked at the data that were being put on our career diploma, we had a law at the time that said, if in the 8th grade you are not proficient on our state exams, then you will by default be put on a career diploma. So when we look to see what are our students earning for certificates culminating in their coursework, most of them are earning a customer service or an Internet Explorer certificate. So, and I alluded to this. This is how the breakdown of the diplomas was in 2013. 3/4 of the students on a misaligned Core 4 diploma that wasn't necessarily making you eligible for TOPS, 22% on a basic diploma that didn't meet TOPS requirements, and 1% of our students on the career diploma. So in 2013, we went around the state and we started talking with school superintendents, business and industry, CTE supervisors, economic development, workforce commission, said, what can we do to strengthen our diploma? And the first thing we needed to do was recognize what our workforce commission offered to provide data to not only the department but to school systems and say, look, we tier jobs in the state of Louisiana. And jobs are tiered from 1 star, meaning they're typically low wage and not necessarily high demand, all the way to a 5-star job, which is high wage, high demand. What this data showed is that we needed to do a better job preparing students in Louisiana for high wage, high demand jobs. Yeah.
Can you tell me who issues the stars?
Yeah, this comes out of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. And it's part of their work with the Workforce Investment Council.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we looked at the occupational forecast, here's what it showed. That it said that in all 8 regional labor markets in the state, there was going to be strong demand for construction, manufacturing, health science, and transportation. But when we came and we looked at our diploma structure and where our students were on that career diploma and they were taking bundles of CTE courses, earning what we called in 2013 an area of concentration, what we found was that a very small percentage of students that were earning industry-based certificates were earning them in the areas where the 4- and 5-star jobs were. And if you look here, you'll see that in 2013, when we looked at the industry-based certificates completed, almost 10,000 were in customer service, Microsoft Office, and IC3. IC3 is a certificate where you get credentialed that you know how to use the internet, you can do word processing, and you can do presentation tools. But then when you look on the other end of the spectrum for the 4 and 5 stars, you can see that there was approximately 3,000 earned. So it was tilted. We had students on the career diploma, and the credentials that they were earning were not high wage, high demand, aligned to the state's 4 and 5-star jobs. So we needed to take a look at the diploma structure. First thing we needed to do was simplify the system. And we needed to have our college diploma, which has now the board adopted in 2014, the TOPS University diploma. And this diploma now completely aligns with TOPS. We also needed a career diploma that culminated with a WIC-recognized industry-based credential that would be aligned and incentivized to those 4 and 5-star jobs in the state. The other thing we needed was increased flexibility. When a student in the 8th grade was put on either a career diploma, a basic diploma, or a Core 4 diploma, in many instances it was not until their junior year that they would have an opportunity to switch diploma paths. So we needed more flexibility where students could move from diploma to diploma, and also we needed where students weren't put on a diploma by default. We wanted to end the duplication, and we wanted a coordinated system where our high schools, our technical colleges, and our industry were all on board. And we wanted to connect the diploma pathways to the real world. So here we are. It's 2018. We have 2 diplomas in place right now. And this policy went into effect. The board adopted a diploma structure whereby I'll be on a Jumpstart TOPS Tech diploma. This diploma is fully aligned to TOPS Tech. Students take 9 courses. It culminates in an industry-based certificate. The other diploma type is our TOPS University diploma. This diploma, coursework-wise, fully aligns with TOPS. So we put this structure in place. The law was also repealed that required 8th graders by default to be put on a career diploma. Okay. On October 1st of this year, we went in and we did a count. Let's see where our students are right now. What have they declared as their diploma pathway when they have worked with their counselor, worked with their parents, worked with their principal as part of the individual graduation planning process? 74% of the high school students in the state as of October were on a TOPS university pathway. This is the diploma structure that's fully aligned with TOPS. The other diploma, which we now have in play, is the Jumpstart diploma. Approximately 20% of our students are on the Jumpstart diploma. Now remember, the previous career diploma, we had 1% of our students. So now we're up to almost 20% of our students on this diploma pathway.
Some students are not, a small number of students are not yet declared.
Yes, that is correct. Some of the students, there was about a small percentage of the students that hadn't declared yet. This is an important slide.
Excuse me.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Before you go into this slide right here, I have puzzled over this slide for a couple of hours. I guess if 25% of the students are male and 14% are female, what are the other 61%?
Yeah, so let me walk through the slide and explain what this is. So here's what this slide is showing. This slide is showing that of male students who choose a diploma pathway in the state, either TOPS University or a Jumpstart Career Diploma, 25% are choosing the career diploma.
Okay.
Of the female students in the state that choose either a TOPS University diploma or a career diploma, 14% of our females are choosing the career diploma.
Got it now.
African American students, 20% of the African American students that are choosing a diploma are choosing a Jumpstart Career Diploma. 20% of the white students are choosing a career diploma, and 16% Asian, Hawaiian, Hispanic, and multi-race students are choosing the career diploma. The other thing with this I want to point out too is that, so now here's what we have. So this comprises about 8,500 students in our state right now when we look at that 20% that are on a career diploma. A diploma that used to be predominantly students of color, we're seeing it now be almost a 50% split between students of color and Caucasian students. We're seeing a diploma that was predominantly almost all male students. Now we're seeing female students also work on this diploma. The other requirement for graduation this year is that if you're on the career diploma, you have to attain that industry-based certificate for your area, but students are also completing the FAFSA. And so now what happens is, in May, at my graduation ceremony, I'm getting my high school diploma. If I'm a TOPS University diploma, I've just taken a college prep diploma, fully aligned with Board of Regents, fully aligned with TOPS, and I will have completed financial aid planning to fund my post-secondary opportunities. If I'm on the career diploma, I'm walking across the stage, I'm getting my high school diploma, I have an industry-based certificate, I've completed financial aid planning, and I can fund my post-secondary opportunities to advance my craft via a TOPS Tech Scholarship, either at a private provider or at our community and technical college system. So this slide shows 53%. The data that came out last Friday, we're getting closer to 55% of our high school seniors have completed financial aid planning. So since this policy, this diploma structure has been adopted, we have seen a significant number of our high school students earning industry-based certificates. In 2013-14, when this class of seniors right now were freshmen, there were approximately 14,000 industry-based certificates being earned across the state on all grade levels. When we fast forward to the 2016-17 school year, the last full school year, we're seeing where 41,000 industry-based certificates had been attained by students in the state. So for those 8,500 seniors right now that are on a Jumpstart Career Diploma pathway. What level of certificate have they earned? And so the credentials and certificates that students earned, they're scaffolded. And so we'll start with a complimentary credential. This is your Microsoft Office, a Microsoft PowerPoint. These are soft skills credentials that they're baseline skills that all employers feel that future students should come to them with. The second one is a regional core credential. It's not associated with high wage, high demand, but it does have substantial employability, but only in selected regions of the state. So an example of a regional might be that customer service credential. A basic statewide. The Workforce Investment Council has recognized this credential. It has high wage, high demand value. And in our accountability system, we recognize this with an enhanced weight in the Strength of Diploma Index. This would be like your NCCER welding level 1. An advanced statewide credential, it takes that credential that is statewide and it goes to the next level. So this would be like your NCCER level 2 welding. So when we look here, we say, okay, we now have this where our Jumpstart Career Diploma students must have a credential as part of graduation. Where are they earning their credentials? And so this shows us that as of October 1st, when they entered their senior year, these 8,500 students, these are the credentials that they had attained thus far as a cohort coming into their senior year. Almost 6,000 of them were complimentary. That's the most basic level of credential you could have. 2,600 were regional, 1,800 were basic, and there were 26 advanced credentials that had been earned by this cohort. These are this year's seniors on a Jumpstart pathway. So what Dr. Singleton worked with me on was, let's display this by region in the state. If we take these 8,500 students, we know that thus far into their senior year, they've earned approximately 10,000 credentials. What are they earning across the state? Who is earning what? So we broke it down by region for you, which very closely aligns to the regional labor markets. And here's, by region, the top 3 credentials that have been earned in each region of the state. I'll let you take a minute and look at it. What you'll notice is that in a lot of the regions, the number 1 credential that is being earned, like in the Northeast region, in the Central region, it's the customer service credential. In our Northwest region, it is the Microsoft Specialist Word credential. In the Southwest, in the Lake Charles area, Calcasieu area, there's been a significant number of NCCER core credentials earned. And in the Southeast, NCCER core. Any questions relative to the, and here's a further breakdown. So when we take all of the credentials that these students are earning and we look at them, a specific credential, we'll see that the number 1 earned has been our NCCER regional core. That's 1,346 of those have been earned by this senior class as of October 1st. Now I should point out, NCCER core, that's your foundational credential. You have, that's a regional, it's a lower tiered credential, but that's your gateway, meaning that once I take NCCER core, I can go on to focus on welding, I could go on and focus on a carpentry, I could go and focus on other air conditioning NCCER credentials. But the second highest one was Microsoft Office Word. That's a complimentary 1,200 of those. But when we look at the real high wage, high demand, industry-based credentials that this cohort has earned coming into their senior year, significantly fewer of the high-wage, high-demand credentials that align with those 4- and 5-star jobs, such as NCCR Welding Level 1, the CIW, which are a set of Workforce Investment Council recognized IT credentials.
What's a ACT National Career Readiness?
Yes, so if I take the work keys and I receive a silver, a gold, or a platinum, the ACT will issue a certificate to that student. And so that is what the ACT National Career Readiness is. It's a soft skills certificate that is issued by the College Board.
And is it one of these complimentary, classified as complimentary?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the lowest tiered certificate that we have. That is a complimentary credential.
And just a quick point of verification on that, Dr. Bofi, is it's not just a soft skill, it is evidence-based.
Yeah.
For a set of work-based questions and answer situations. So it's a little more defined than soft skill piece of that.
Thank you. Dr. Jones?
And I was involved with this, John, as you remember back at the start of it. One of the things that worried me at the time, and I'm just wondering what your experience has shown. Traditionally, some of these career paths in here, like plumbers and electricians, have required apprenticeship programs through the trade unions that in order for them to get certified. Just getting a certificate is not the normal, or I won't say normal, not the traditional process for getting that certification. Have y'all made any inroads into the trade unions as far as them recognizing and issuing licensing and so forth as a result of that, and not requiring them to go through their apprentice program?
I would say what we have done is we piloted last summer a series of what we call Jumpstart Summers, whereby the school system would partner with business and industry. The student would go get a work-based learning experience. The student would receive a stipend for doing that, and they would be working towards an industry-based certificate. So it was summer school, but it was a Jumpstart internship, course credit, earn an industry-based certificate, and receive a stipend. We released an RFA to expand that this summer so that school systems could leverage their supplemental course allocation dollars, and they could partner with business and industry, and with any of their supplemental course allocation dollars that they had left over, they could provide students internship opportunities this summer. And in April, we will be bringing back to you as the board a set of recommendations for additional providers of summer internships.
All right, but I'm going back to the original question I'm trying to focus on here. And somewhere in your slide in here, you indicated that one of the high wage earners in there, plumbers were enlisted in the group that makes about $23, $24 an hour. Well, when a plumber came to my house the other day, he charged me $90-something an hour. Okay? And that's what set me to thinking. The question I guess I'm still asking you is, for example, if someone comes out with a electrician certificate out of that course that we got with that, is the local union recognizing that and certifying those folks and licensing them as electricians or as plumbers or any of those jobs that have traditionally been controlled by the trade unions?
Yeah. I don't have the data that shows right now when a student out of this first cohort is going to graduate one of these 141 with an NCCR level 1. Where did they take that portable credential? And if and when they show up at a union, is the union recognizing that credential?
Okay. Well, I think that's something you might want to work on.
If it's a union shop, probably not.
Yeah.
But the NCCR credential, as you probably know, emerged out of the non-unionized shops, which is most of them in Louisiana. We've certainly had discussions with some of the AFL affiliates in the New Orleans area where there still are trade unions that are active in these places, and they've been good partners with us. But I think you're right, Dr. Jones, that in a unionized shop, the student would have to go through some aspect of the union's program.
Well, I'm remembering in Monroe, for example, and it may have changed, but in Monroe, the only way you got to be licensed as an electrician was to go through, even though it's a non-union shops up there, the only way you got licensed as an electrician was to go through the through the apprenticeship program that was put on by the union there. That's the way you got your card. I'm just curious as to whether or not folks that finish our certificates are still facing that same obstacle, and if there's some way we could reach out to those to maybe get them to include those people in their apprenticeship programs.
Yeah, and could I add some, Dr. Wilkie?
Yes.
I think to that point is there is that issue, but additionally there's the issue of they're getting a core, their NCCER core. That basic level is not, it's better than someone who doesn't have it, but it's not really moving them in the direction of career ready. It's not necessarily moving them, I should rephrase that. It had moved them in the direction, but not very far. And I think that's a big disconnect that we have in general here with this is if we're going to say they're career ready, the student's career ready, are we really? And as I look at this, I'm looking at MS Office Specialist in Word in 2018 graduating class. Are you career ready by having that certificate? You know, and I would submit to you that you're not. If you had that and the PowerPoint, I would submit to you not. And that's 2 of the top 5 that we have here. The work-ready community piece, the NCRC, I happen to be very familiar with that program. I think that's a great thing. I'm wondering why we don't have more of those in place. But again, that's an evidence of some knowledge learned, but not career ready. I think the disconnect is a symptom of that disconnect is, are we getting with unions and trade organizations and saying, can we work, say, for plumbers in your example, Dr. Jones? But the bigger issue is, are we even ready to move to that step when they're moving through this program?
Well, and the reason that I make that point is that even with the non-union shops, John, in Monroe, the electrical, the only way that you were able to get into the apprentice program was an electrician company basically had to nominate you for inclusion in the apprentice program. You didn't just walk up there and say, I want to be an electrician. You had to go to work for somebody as a helper or whatever, and then they nominated you to get into the night school class of the union that for the electrician and so forth. So as I looked at this, and I thought the same thing you thought, Tony, about the Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint. I mean, those are basically soft skills. Those are not really career-ready type things. But where do we tie this together? In other words, what's the next step for a kid that comes out of high school with an NCER certificate? How does that kid then get into the profession that they've done this preparation for? And
So I'm gonna see if we can wrap up this presentation. And I know that there's some other board members that want to jump into this conversation. So if you guys want to finish what you're doing here, then I'll get the board to engage in that conversation.
And this is the last slide here, but I do want to just point out, that we'd be remiss not to just point out that also last summer in Jefferson Parish, that students went and they partnered with the union there, and they were working on carpentry in Jefferson Parish. So that was being piloted in Jefferson Parish. But as we move into 2018, 3 things. One is implementing new K-16 pathways. You as a board have approved a pre-engineering pathway. Forthcoming, there is work going on for a coastal restoration pathway. There is work going on relative to robotics pathways and IT and coding pathways as well. Regional teams around the state in partnership with post-secondary developing pathways in these areas. The second thing is expanding the Jumpstart summer pilot programs. The ones, for example, that like we had in Jefferson Parish last summer, where students were working at the carpentry union, getting those apprentice skills and getting those carpentry credentials. We will be bringing to the board in April a recommended set of providers that will be able to offer summer Jumpstart internships and leverage their supplemental course allocation dollars. And the third thing relative to this is there is a new career readiness course that is being developed that will be piloted in the fall that will eventually be able to be replacing the Journey to Careers course that is 10 years old and currently in place. And so we have a group of almost 40 educators from Louisiana and our state that are working on that new career readiness course for students.
So before we go to them, you presented, I don't know what slide number, but it's the one with the 2018 cohort career diploma IBCs earned. I go back to the one about where it breaks up the advanced, basic, regional, and complementary. I mean, I think you've posed a problem to us here that the majority of these are complementary.
Exactly.
And that I think that we need to be moving towards advanced. Do we have a plan to get to where we're getting more advanced? I don't see that as one of the next steps.
Exactly, that was my question.
Okay.
I'd like to help push us that way.
Because this is
a
concerning.
second.
That's very concerning to me. 26, all the marketing, everything around the Workforce Investment Council, even the discussions. I represent BESE on the STEM Advisory Council. Is pushing more advanced manufacturing, those advanced credentials, and to only have 26 is concerning when we've had major investments in this area, and even, the future investments of the state, is around these advanced manufacturing jobs. And I just wanted to follow up with Dr. Bofi. What are the challenges and barriers that's currently in place in the school systems where these kids aren't, they're not advancing through the advanced credentials? And if it's a policy or something that maybe the board needs to adopt for these schools to be a bit more flexible and nimble, I'm sure we're open to that, but 26 is concerning to me.
Okay.
So when the original Jumpstart Career Diploma was adopted into policy by the board in the spring of 2014, one component of that was that when this cohort moved through, we would come back and share with you where we are relative to the data. And that's one of the things that we're doing today. But it is probably time for us to do a scope and sequence now, since it's been 5 years since we had the last occupational forecast, and we have been approving our pathways to make sure that we have schools that are not oversubscribing to credentials where there is no workforce need and workforce demand.
I know Ms. Voce wanted to speak.
Okay, and I think what we have to remember too is we're looking at the 2018 cohort, and we're looking at data that was as of October 1, which is the beginning of the school year. And what happens throughout, at least in my experience in my schools, what happens throughout their 4-year career, the first credentials that they're earning, which could be as a sophomore or such, or the complementary soft skill ones. That's why you're seeing, to me at least, unless Ms. Bradford has a different interpretation, a large number of those complementary credentials. Now that doesn't earn you a diploma. Those are two, you have to have in each pathway 2 complementary credentials to move along in the pathway. Then you get to the regional one, and you looked at one being, for example, the NCER core, which is what the next one they take along that path. And depending upon the talent or the, I guess, of each individual student, he may get as far as that regional one if he's not particularly skilled, and that may earn him a basic, a regular diploma, but without any IBCs, workforce IBCs. Then they go to the basic one. So the kids who have the NCCER core are getting ready their senior year, at least in my experience, then to take the level 1 and then possibly the level 2. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of advanced credentials at the beginning of their senior year. You're going to see them earning those advanced credentials or the basic credentials during their senior year. At least that's my experience with our kids, because this is a progression. Until you get to that top level, whether it's welding, electrician, HVAC, whatever trade you're in, you've got to take the core first, then the level 1, then the level 2, and that you take those progressively as you take the more advanced courses within that pathway. Now, are we ever going to get the same number of advanced credentials as we have complementary? No, you're not. Because every pathway requires you to have 2 complementary credentials along the way to earning basic and advanced. So I think, unless I'm reading this wrong, Mr. Bradford, I think we're going to see an increase in this by the end of the school year. Are we where we want to be? Probably not.
I think we most definitely will see an increase because they still have their senior year to continue working on their credentials and get the next scaffolded level of credential, and whether that's a basic credential or a statewide credential. But looking at this, though, I do think we do want to look at and make sure that not necessarily what level are they earning in their region, but is the credential that they're earning applicable?
Yeah.
For instance, we know that in the northeast corridor of the state, there is a lot to do with IT, a lot with cyber engineering, a lot with cybersecurity. Is our northeast quadrant, are we meeting that demand up there with customer service, Microsoft Office, and emergency medical responder? In central Louisiana, and I've recently been to some economic development meetings and just talking about the need for manufacturing in central Louisiana. Is the system putting out enough students and preparing them to meet those occupational forecasts for manufacturing with customer service, regional core, and Microsoft specialist work? So I do think we need to definitely look and make sure that not only the level of credential is appropriate, but is that credential aligning with the regional labor market needs in each area of the state?
Mr. Davis?
Listen to this, and having read over this data, I certainly respect Ms. Boucher saying I think you're right. There's a pattern. We're moving forward. There's time left in this. And I think to Mr. Bradford's point, though, and my main concern is that there's not been the right realignment or evaluation of the alignments across the state and the different regions. And as such, Madam Chair, if you'd allow me so, I'd like to maybe substitute motion. I move to receive the report, but I also want to recommend that the department work with a third-party evaluator of some kind to look at the alignment of the pathways and Jumpstart and report back to this board on the information. They can come look at the different regional pathways, state pathways, and make sure that we are implementing these programs correctly. Can I make that motion there?
That's fair. We just need a second.
I'll second that. Second.
So I got several seconds here.
Could you explain exactly?
Yeah, let me make sure that I'm clear here, and then we can talk through it a little bit and ask questions. Ms. Lewis, did you second it?
I second that motion.
Okay. All right. Would you like to talk through what you're?
What I'd like to see is for the department to work with someone outside the department to make sure that we are, whether that's the Workforce Commission or some other third party, to make sure that we are, to your point exactly of, say, Northeast Louisiana, are we aligning the opportunities there, the credentials, the IBCs, with the needs of those communities? At this point, I don't think that we are. And I think it's important that we do some formal study to look at that and bring back recommendations to this board of how we can change this program to better meet the needs in those regional pathways and across the state for that matter.
Are there questions, Ms. Fauché?
And I don't have a problem with that. I'm fine with that, but I think we all have to remember as well, and I'm in the Southeast region, in terms of choice among students of what they would like. It's great to meet the demands in a certain particular region or to inform students and their parents that the job opportunities within this region are this, and this primarily. But that doesn't necessarily mean that child or that student is going to grow up and stay in that region or have a passion for something else that may not be within his region. So we've still got to make sure that the opportunities exist for these students to choose the pathway that they are most comfortable with and something that they want to work with throughout their career. But I'm fine with making sure they're aware of, in this particular region, if you're going to say, here's the demand and here's where the jobs will be primarily.
Thank you, Ms. Fauché.
Are there any other questions from board members? Mr. Davis, would you like to put a deadline on your motion?
When's our next meeting? Is that too soon?
It's in April.
I would defer to the
It's pretty
department
soon.
on some appropriate timeline for that. Superintendent? June? Let's go with that.
Okay. Does that work? Staff, do you have all that you need for the motion? All right. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Garvey.
I have a question for
Mr. Garvey, can you use your mic, please? Well, then you can move over and use a different mic, Mr. Garvey.
Local school board members have asked me, have expressed that there's a lot of confusion amongst parents about what a Jump Start diploma is. And then there's a lot of explaining about how it differs from a regular diploma that prepares you to go and get a TOPS scholarship to a 4-year college. And they've suggested several times, several different school board members, that maybe we should change the name from Jump Start Diploma to TOPS Tech Diploma. Have you heard that suggestion, and what do you think about it if you have?
The enabling legislation actually refers to it as a career diploma. We have branded it as the Jumpstart TOPS Tech Career Diploma in our communications with the field and in all of our publications as a way of saying, look, here's what it is. It's going to fully align with TOPS Tech. So when you go and when you get the manufacturing certificate, the plumbing certificate, when you complete your Jumpstart Career Diploma, you have your credential, you're eligible to now go to post-secondary, such as the LCTCS campus, and utilize TOPS Tech. But currently the statute calls it a career diploma. But we have branded it.
Today was the
as
first
Jumpstart.
time that I've noticed, and on page 8, we have in front of the on our screens right now, where it says Jumpstart TOPS Tech Diploma. I've never seen Jumpstart and TOPS Tech Diploma connected before today. Is that something new? And are you going to continue in that direction?
We're going to continue in that direction. And what we did in 2014 was we worked with Board of Regents in LOSFA. So when the diploma structure was adopted by the board, that it fully aligns with TOPS Tech. Thus the Jumpstart TOPS Tech career.
Thank you.
diploma.
Are there any other questions by board members? Is there any objection to the substitute motion? Hearing none, motion passes. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 2. Item 2.2, consideration of an update report regarding procedures related to LDE findings concerning test security irregularities. The department recommendation is to receive the report.
Is there a motion to receive the report?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Thomason. And there was a second, I think, by Mr. Davis. Okay, Mr. White?
Members, at the last meeting, Kelly Joseph, Superintendent of St. Helena Parish, brought a number of concerns about a large-scale zeroing out of scores that had happened given with some administrative irregularities in their school. It was recommended by you that we bring the issue of whether there should be a different process for facilitating local investigations of these issues to the Superintendent's Advisory Council. We did so, had a good discussion, and are prepared to move forward with a couple of changes that we hope to bring you at a meeting soon after this one. It's a complicated subject, but I hope that the changes that we put forth will accomplish a couple of things. First, it will end the practice of wasted time of locals doing investigations. Occasionally, you may have 1 or 2 students where there's been some issue, an investigation is required. It may well be that the local district says simply, that's not really an issue of great consequence one way or the other. We don't need to spend a lot of time doing an investigation, and in my mind, it shouldn't be required. Secondly, if they do put in the time and money to do an investigation, there should be a standard of evidence, and the standard of evidence can be introduced to an appellate body that is not the department. I'm certainly fine with that. If that should be a group of technical experts, be they forensic experts or assessment experts, but if they go so far as to really want to press their case, that's fine, of course, and it should be made, I believe, to somebody other than this board and other than the department. And so our recommendation will include that as well. Finally, it will acknowledge that there are some investigations that are simply so large scale that really no volunteer body of people, or certainly a body of appointed and elected officials, is in a position to decide on them. There should be some rule that says that if a case involves as this one did, hundreds of individual records, that there is some requirement for an outside investigative body, and we will include that in our recommendation as well. I think all of these issues are in line with what the superintendents voiced at the Superintendent's Advisory Council. It was a very good discussion, and I look forward to bringing you a policy recommendation in the ensuing months. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions by board members? I understand that there's not any public comment. Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 3, item 2.3, consideration of the renewal of previously approved state-certified world language immersion schools. The department recommendation is to approve the renewals for Baton Rouge Foreign Language Academic Immersion Magnet, International School of Louisiana, and Westdale Middle School.
We need a motion. Thank you, Ms. Orange Jones.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Davis. Is there any public comment on this item?
I have
Superintendent?
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Members, I'd just like to recognize a couple of people in the audience. First, you should know that this is the seal that is awarded to all of the schools so that they can proudly display this upon receiving the state certification, which was placed into law not too long ago. First, I'd like to, if you could just stand and be recognized, like to represent from Baton Rouge Flame, not a very far commute today, Cheryl Miller, our principal. Ms. Miller, if you could, thank you very much for being here. Thank you. I don't know if we do have representatives from Westdale Middle Magnet, also not far from here. There we go. Thank you so much. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you so much. And from the International School. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here from New Orleans. I'm also told we have Amalia de Rosarena de la Lana from the Embassy of Spain. If you could please stand. Thank you very much for being here. And Karim Ouali from the Embassy of France. Not here. Okay. Oh, there you go. Thank you. No? Okay. Thank you all very much for being here. We appreciate all of your efforts and for being statewide exemplars of excellence. Congratulations once again. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 5, item 2.4, consideration of an update report regarding alternative education work groups. The department recommendation is to receive the reports regarding the LDE work group on Rapides Training Academy, the BESE work group on potential alternative frameworks, and the alternative education working group.
Was that a motion, Dr. Jones? Yes. Dr. Jones moves, and there is a second by Ms. Orange Jones. Is there public comment on this one? No?
No, ma'am.
Superintendent White?
Thank you. Would like to give a thanks to Ms. Edmonston, Mr. Garvey, Ms. Holloway, Dr. Jones, and Ms. Voce for their participation in the working group. We've met several times, had, I think, very productive discussions. We looked at a broad array of data and came to the following conclusion that the department is now going to take and run with it, and I'll talk about next steps. First, we will be bringing to, I believe, to the April board meeting a definition of an alternative school. That definition having been established, we will be able to create a new accountability system for such schools by the October meeting, and the Accountability Commission will be advised of this at its next meeting. Second, we also will create a definition of schools serving students in a residential setting or from a residential setting who have significant cognitive impairments. And those schools, too, will receive an alternate accountability system that will be presented to the board at the August meeting. I will be presenting both of these policies, these definitions, at the Superintendent's Advisory Council next week, and then again to you in April. Upon your putting a definition of such schools into the bulletin, we will commence the process with the Accountability Commission of creating an alternate accountability system. I should say, finally, both of these are going to be extremely intensive bodies of work. They're going to involve different assessment instruments, different indices, so it will be a very comprehensive process. I believe we may come out of them thinking that we should be identifying other types of schools that need these systems. I believe we may come out of it feeling like there's great risk in doing that for other types of schools, so I just don't know. But I appreciate the working group for having gotten us off to a good start, and for those of you who are able to join us, we will be presenting this to the superintendents for their consideration at a meeting, I believe, next Thursday. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. Jones?
I'd just like to express my appreciation to the superintendent. This has been an issue of concern of mine, and I think Superintendent Voce's since 2003. And this is the first real progressive effort I've seen come up forth, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you and your staff and the board members that had the time to come and meet and help us get this thing wrestled.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'd like to also thank our fellow board members for participating, and I look forward to hearing what you've decided. Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 6, item 3.1, consideration of an update report regarding the special school district. The department recommendation is to receive the report. Updated backup documentation has been distributed.
Ms. Voce moves, and we have a second from Ms. Holloway. Thank you very much. Superintendent White?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I would direct your attention to your monitors, please. I just have a brief report. As you know, some time ago, the state commissioned an external review of the special school district and of the special schools. I'm going to walk you through what that report has identified, but just as important, I'm going to walk you through some specific next steps that the department is proposing to take in line with the report. You can see here the timeline started about 9 months ago, and in July the RFP was released. The proposals ultimately ended with a group called the Education Development Center, and they subcontracted with a number of exemplar schools around the country to review the individual schools here in Louisiana. Here is a listing of the groups that were involved. You see the group on the upper left hand was the general contractor. The other three groups, the Perkins School, the American School for the Deaf, and the Cotting School, are all national models in their given areas. The recommendations, or the report, excuse me, went through many iterations. The drafters met with advocates and parents, educators here on the ground in Louisiana. They visited each of the schools and spent a significant period of time analyzing each school. And you see that they came away with a number of recommendations. I'll just read through a couple so that you have a sense of the types of recommendations that they detailed, but you also have in your backup the very in-depth report that they produced for the state. They suggested that once this is done, the SSD, and this is an important distinction, the SSD should become a shared network of expertise and resources supporting all of the state of Louisiana. I want to highlight that phrase because it's not the case that they just gave us a report saying you need to make these 3 schools better. They said that the SSD needs to be an environment that can be drawn upon for expertise from all of the schools in Louisiana, for all of the children in Louisiana, especially those with low incidence disabilities. They recommended changes related to the appropriate level of expertise for the leaders of the district, the structure around decision-making for the district, the resource allocation strategy that the district uses, clarity as to what the specific role of the district is and the specific students that they are to serve, plans around staff recruitment and staff retention, and other organizational recommendations. This is just a summary list. Obviously, in the report, each of the recommendations has great detail attached to it. Based on the report today, I'm providing you with 3 steps that the department is going to take immediately. Again, our objective is to make this a statewide resource and a national model of excellence. And therefore, first, we're committed to redesigning the position of the special school district superintendent. This is a district that needs to be a statewide resource. It needs to be a national model of excellence. The current superintendent responsibilities are not designed in that manner, and therefore we are redesigning the position of superintendent, and we'll be running a national search for identifying someone who can qualify for the redesigned position, given the new vision. Second, in anticipation of that superintendent coming into office, we will be immediately contracting with an outside organizational expert to give us an analysis of the spending patterns and the organizational structure, as well as the capacities of all individuals within the organization, so that the new superintendent, when she or he takes office, has a very detailed outlining of what the district spends, how the district is organized, and who exactly works within the district. And finally, we will provide regular updates to you on the strategy going forward with which the new superintendent will be tasked. The superintendent, him or herself, will be in charge of that vision, but we will make sure to be providing you regular updates as the process proceeds. In terms of that process proceeding, as of today, we will be posting a vacancy for that position. That will be made public today. We will be taking applications for that position through May 16. May 21, I will be advising you of the 3 finalists, say roughly 3, that will have been selected as ultimate candidates for that position. May 21 through June 8, we'll be conducting interviews to which you will have access, to which I will have access, and to which the public will have access. So there will be public interviews of finalist candidates between May 21 and June 18. In the middle of June, there will be an announcement, we believe, of a finalist. And at the June 19 BESE meeting, we hope to present a successor who has been identified and has accepted the position. This is a fast timeline, given that this is a national search. It's an aspirational timeline. I believe we'll be able to make it, but it is the timeline we're on. Finally, I want to just highlight my gratitude to Monty Burke, who is currently in this position. This announcement today is an announcement of a new vision. It's an announcement of a redesigned district. It's a redesigned position. It's not the position that he accepted and not the position that he inherited, so it's not a comment on Mr. Burke, but it is a comment on the need to move on. We need to redesign and re-envision this district. Thus, we need to redesign and re-envision the superintendency first and foremost. I thank him for his service. Madam Chair, those are my comments. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Superintendent. Board members, we have a number of public comments. Unless any of you have an urgent question, I'm going to go ahead and take public comment. Right? So, members of the audience, I'm going to call up 4 people at a time. There's space for 4 to sit. Be sure that you put your mic on. The green light will light up, and then there's seating behind for the next 4. So we'll do 4 at a time in the front row, and then we'll go with the next 4 in the front row for the audience. We have Henry Brickman, Emily Zarang, Norma Zarang, and Ari Latino. The next 4 that'll sit in the audience, Laura Grisham, Brandy Washington, Susan Covington, and Jay Isaiah. So did Henry come up? Okay, great. You're fine. Do whatever you need to do. Henry.
And can I see the time? Is there a time limit for my speech?
Yes, 3 minutes.
3 minutes, perfect. I just don't see it right now.
We'll display it.
Okay, great. I see it, fantastic. I was born in New Orleans, and I grew up as a hearing person, and I became deaf at the age of 5 years old. At that time, I was going to the Catholic preschool program after becoming deaf. After becoming deaf, my family was in shock, and they didn't know what to do with me. They couldn't figure out how to help me. So they moved me to the special class. There was a deaf class in New Orleans. It's called the Joan Diabet School. on Canal Street, and it was a special class for children learning an oral method. So this is what I learned at the time, an oral method, until the 7th grade. I had a good education there. And then after the 6th grade, they didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know where I could go to school. There was no public facilities in town for that. That was back in the 1950s. At that time, they thought that I could go to the Catholic school, where my sister, who was hearing, was there in the class for 7th and 8th grade. So I went to that school, but it was not a good fit for me. I did poorly then. So after 8th grade, my family decided to move me to the school for the deaf here in Baton Rouge. But it was a disaster. I was a child learning the oral method, and the environment didn't have any support for me. They didn't know how to work with me either. I had to learn sign language. So it was too much for me at the time. I ran away from school, from the school for the deaf. So my parents finally decided, trying to figure out what to do with me, they decided to look for another school. They finally got a school, the Beauregard School in New Orleans. It's a high school there. They now changed the name of the school, I believe. It's on Canal Street. I went through the 9th grade there, and I looked for another place for me to finish high school. Finally found a private school there in downtown. I graduated in 1966. But then I accepted the idea of going to Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. for college. I went there for 2 years. But then I felt like it wasn't a good fit for me. So I moved back to Louisiana. And I went to the University of Southwest Louisiana. I have a degree in history and a master's degree in deaf education, and a master's degree in administration supervision for a deaf program. But after all my experience in the school system, I worked in different states, North Dakota, Colorado, and then I came back home to Louisiana again to work at the school for the deaf. Anyway, there's been a lot of changes, and much more than I thought that it would be. The teachers now don't know how to sign good enough in the school. The students don't know how to learn anymore. So I think that after spending some time there, I left to go into private business, which I did for 20 years, and then I came back. And again, the school is the same thing. Actually, the school has degenerated since then. So I hope and I pray that you can improve the school going forward, and really to step up and support the Lead K bill that is going to legislation now.
Thank you. Next, we have Emily Zarang.
So hi, my name is Emily Zarang. And thank you so much for setting up the RFP earlier this year. I came here to Louisiana. I was raised in Massachusetts for most of my life, and since I was 2 months old, actually. And I moved here a couple of years ago. The school where I was at the time in Massachusetts is called the Mary Phillips School for the Deaf, MSP. And I spent most of my life there, as you know. So when I moved to Louisiana, I was kind of in shock because Massachusetts have really high standard, regular standards for the deaf students there, but here it didn't seem to be the case. I noticed that the standards were so low when I moved here. So it was very, very behind. And after 2 months after moving here and entering LSD, I took the ACT test. I got a score, and my ACT score was 21. But the first time I took the test was 21, which, you know, is pretty good. And the teachers at LSD kept telling me, wow, thank you for making LSD look good and making me look good as a teacher. But to be honest with you, I didn't learn anything in my time at the Louisiana School for the Deaf. You know, it felt like it was just a review of elementary and middle school. And it kind of shocked me how much there's a huge discrepancy between the state where I was, the northern state, and down here in Louisiana, and that needs to change. So all I learned was vocabulary in vocational class. That's pretty much the only thing that I learned. Everything else, there was nothing new. I feel like I stayed at the middle school level since I'm here. And I understand that it might be a challenge to bring the school back to the level that I am used to, you know, but I hope that you can help doing that. And I would like all the students to be at my level right now. And I learned right now that the high school classes at the Louisiana School for the Deaf don't pass the 8th grade level. And that's really bad. It's a big difference between, you know, my middle school, 8th grade, and a senior who wants to enter college who only has 8th grade knowledge. It's important that those classes be on par with the other schools, you know, because it's really bad how it is here. And that can cause students to struggle so much when they try to enter college because they've missed pretty much 4 years of high school classes. And I really hope that y'all will take action for that. And thank you so much for listening to me today.
Thank you. We have Norma next. Norma? Can you reset the timer? Yes.
Okay, hi. You just heard my daughter Emily speak, and I'm Norma. Norma Zerang. Hello, everyone. I'm a parent of an LSD student, and she's now a senior right now, standing by me. And she's planning on entering Gallaudet University in the fall, which I'm very proud of. My daughter is a third-generation deaf child. So my parents were deaf, my husband and I are deaf, and she is deaf as well. And of course, she was exposed to sign language from day one. She had access to language, and she went to the Mayor Phillips School, like you just mentioned. So she started going to the school at the age of 2 months on a bi-weekly basis until she was 3 years old when she entered the school full-time in pre-K. And she went on from there every year. And again, she had full exposure to American Sign Language and other languages, obviously. And that basis in sign language helped her English skill so that she is a very good reader today. When we visited the Louisiana School for the Deaf, we were really impressed with the campus. It's really great. And it was very warm, hospitable, people were friendly, and we decided that it was a good fit for us, so we enrolled our daughter there. After a while, though, we started realizing that LSD is not up to par compared to the Mayor Phillips School. They don't quite have the same standard. Of course, Mayor Phillips School is one of the top schools for the deaf in the U.S., but LSD was far, far behind this is what we realized. And sadly, we found out that the LSD students did not have the same opportunities as my daughter has had throughout the years, or as other students have in the other schools. And it's very urgent now that we make up for this. It's very serious, and things need to be improved for the students in the Louisiana School for the Deaf and for the future of those students. We want to offer them equal opportunity to be successful in life. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We have Ari next.
Hi, my name is Ari Latino, and most of you know me already. I've been coming here. I've been going to the School for the Deaf since I was 3 years old, and I was pretty much raised there. Thanks for my mom, who decided to put me through that school because she knew that it would be a great environment for me to have access to language and teachers who could communicate with me. And, I grew up like a normal kid. I'm just like any other kids you've known. Now, in 2009, things that happened in the school. You're very aware that we had the schools closing, the terrible situation that happened here. And afterwards, frankly, I haven't noticed any change. Or if anything, things have gotten worse. If you can see now, the school has lost a lot of students, a lot of good qualified teachers, and a lot of good people have been laid off. People who were really good at communicating with us. They were great staff, and we have a huge turnaround. And I can see it from from age 3 until now, I've been at the school. And it looks, I know that it's not going to be an overnight fix, obviously, but since 2009, it's just been such a struggle being there. And I've seen no improvement personally. I know that at the time, I didn't realize and I had noticed or visited other schools, schools in Texas, but when I seen other schools, I saw that there's such a huge difference. They have language access everywhere from the age of 3. I see 3-year-old children who can sign so well. I had not seen that at my school here. When I come back to my school at LSD, it's not like that. Kids don't have a language. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to talk. And it really hurt me when I saw that. And I keep seeing it over and over again. My school doesn't feel like a normal school for a deaf person. There's no access to language. I know now there's a Lead K bill that's going on, and you're going to hear and see more about it. The whole point is to be able to provide a whole system where kids have access to language. Honestly, I do feel behind. I feel behind the rest of the world because the school is obviously following the state policy, but certain things are bothering me. Certain things feel like they're not right. I feel like the state is not really aware of deaf children and our skills and our possibility and what we can do in the future. And so I'm asking you all here to please, people of BESE, please make sure to pay attention to us, deaf children in the state. We're kids too, and we need to catch up. We are able to do that. We want to have a better school here in Louisiana like it used to be. It used to be the top school, one of the top schools in the country, had 500-600 students. They were doing great. Now my graduating class has got 5 students. It's ridiculous. So I'm asking you, please, just improve the program. Make things better for us statewide. And because it's such a struggle, we really need a lot of change. We wanted to go back to the way it was. I'm a senior now. It's over for me, But I'm asking for you to please focus on our school. Give attention to it, to deaf children, to language. Support us, support our community, please. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for listening to what I had to say.
Thank you. Our next group is Laura Grisham, Brandy Washington, Susan Covington, and Jay Isaiah. And then we also have cards from Lisa Potter and Jimmy Shallow Score if you want to come to the first row in the audience. Can you turn the mic off here? Okay. Thanks. Are you Laura? Okay, is your green light on?
No. Okay, now it's on.
Okay, pull your mic a little closer.
All right, how's that?
I think it's better.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for jumping on that position that you mentioned for our administrators need. The first finding of the review board was that that we have administrators that know what's going on, that have expertise with deaf and blind and all of the special school district. So I appreciate you jumping on that. What I want to mention, I am a mother of a 10th grader son at LSD. He's been there since he was in kindergarten. He was there when the school closed down back a few years back. We had a review board then that came in and they made some wonderful recommendations, and it seemed like the state went forward a little bit, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back though. It wasn't long till things went down and down and down. So I'm hoping that you're on top of that and don't let that happen again. As my son is getting close to graduating, I'm more concerned with transition services, and that he should be doing these things right now. And the group, the review board recommended district-wide approach. They recommended opportunities in the community. Those things don't happen at all, and I feel like our kids don't get a lot of these services. Another thing that they mentioned was student independence and self-advocacy. And like, I live in Prairieville. I'm too close in. I would like for my son to live, I'm too close in for my son to live at the school in the dorms. So he's been living at home, and yay for him, but he gets no opportunities for a lot of the socialization that goes on with the dorm kids, and he doesn't get that independent training. And there are wonderful facilities at LSD. There's apartments there, and I've been told that my son cannot live in those apartments because we live too close in. And that would be amazing for him to get to do that. So I want you to know that LSD has the most wonderful facilities, and I hope that you will look, as you're looking at these things, you'll look into taking advantage of a lot of those things. And the last thing I want to say is I am totally in support of the Lead K bill, and I hope that you all will consider that, and that needs to go forward because all of our children need language. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington?
Good morning, everyone. I am Brandy Washington. I am the academic interventionist at Louisiana School for the Visually Impaired. And first off, I would like to say we are definitely in support of the recommendations that have been given. We are glad to have the spotlight, so to speak, on us. We have teachers who year after year attend teacher leading trainings that are held by the state, both in New Orleans as well as right here in Baton Rouge. And so sometimes we run into the issue of not having specialists when we have trouble in content areas. We get to a certain point and no one can give us a recommendation for the Braille. And so we're glad now to have the attention of the board as well as LDOE to get additional assistance in this area. And so I heard Superintendent White state that there's a possibility of looking at an alternate accountability system. And that's one of the main concerns we've had because so many of our students come to us well below average and us trying to catch them up. And so we're glad now to have that open dialogue of where do we go next? Okay. Where do we go next? We do have a great list of recommendations we'd like to give at some point when the board is ready to revise once the superintendent is in place as outlined in the review. One thing I did notice in the review, and I was one of the people interviewed during this process, these schools of excellence, they have all of these recommendations in place. However, their population, when they take state assessments, they are not used in the same manner as which ours are. And so that's where our concern came into place, is that we do have the ability and specialists within our schools to make these items happen. We're just concerned with the accountability piece. And so I would like to also add that budgeting and funding is a definite concern when addressing some of these areas of improvement. So I would like the board to consider that as well. And that's all that I have. Thank you. Oh, one thing I'd like to add, I am special education certified. I've been doing this for well over 10 years. And so I can speak from a specialist perspective in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Covington?
Hi, how are you guys? I am an English teacher at LSVI, and I'm national board certified in English. So I come from a little bit different perspective. We teach the core curriculum, Louisiana core curriculum, at our school. And we follow the curriculum as well as can be expected. We are not able to finish 4 units or 3 units even, but we finish them diligently throughout with all of the skills and standards that our students are supposed to receive. I feel that the VI, the expanded core, we're not able to use, and that was one of the findings, that we need more expanded core time in our classrooms also to make sure our students are prepared for life, in the real world. Typically, we are underrepresented and underemployed, and it's really important that our students get the full education, not just the core competencies from the curriculum. They need to learn living skills and social skills. Many of our students do get to live in the dorm, and they do learn these things, but it's not enough. When you come into the world with low vision or blindness, you have lost one of the senses that we use typically to learn everything in our lives, that context. And I just feel that our students are at a disadvantage, and we would like to give them more of the possibility and more time to learn all of the curriculum, the expanded curriculum as well. Like I said, my students learn all, I teach English 1, 2, 3, and 4. My students learn all of the information, the skills, and the standards. But they need to learn more about how can I take this literature and expand it into the life. And sometimes with the curriculum, it's just not enough time to ask them, okay, what are we going to do with this? We apply it, you know, how would this be today? But is it enough? We use speaking and listening standards to address those needs. But I think there needs to be a little bit more time for others. When I came from a regular vision school, I taught 150 students a day, and I probably had 30%, probably 30% were high level, 30% in the middle, 33, 35 more in the middle, and then probably 30, you know, it was an even bell curve. When I came here to the VI school, I have approximately 4 to 5 students per class. And out of the 4 to 5, one student comes in super, like they know all this stuff, so I have to give them more of the curriculum. But I also have students who are in the middle and some who are low. So when you have 1 out of 5 students, that's 5 different preps within a class just to make sure our students are getting what they need for the curriculum. And it's really hard to make sure that each of them get what they deserve and what they need. And so we're just asking for, help and support and giving our students exactly what they need. And we want to be a school of excellence. And sometimes it's difficult when you have the rating that we have, but we do our best and we do use the core curriculum. And I wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Mr. Isaiah, and please correct me if I am messing up your name. Ms. Covington, is your
Yes.
mic off now? Okay.
All right, my name, by the way, is Jay Ish, I-S-C-H. Anyways, so like I said, I'm Jay Ish. I'm an advocate for Deaf Focus, and also I'm involved in different community organizations, different campaigns, and in different capacities. But I'm glad that we're talking about this today. I missed the last week, the briefing, because I was in Washington, D.C. for a national rally. But I would like to emphasize that what we're talking about, language role models, this is very important. And I'm glad that you're replacing some of the people, but I would like to revisit the Louisiana School for the Deaf administration. And I hope that you realize the importance of deaf experts, deaf language role models, and people who sign in a classroom. And also, I would like to expand a little bit more on HB 199. It's a lead K bill, language equality and acquisition for deaf kids. I hope that you and the board will support this. I hope that the board will follow through as well with the evaluators' reports and the improvements at the Louisiana School for the Deaf to give the kids an opportunity to succeed in life. And I look forward to what you have to provide, in the school from now on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We now have Lisa Potter and Jimmy Shallis Gore.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Potter, and I will give you a little bit of background about myself. I was on the board for the LCD, the Louisiana Commission for the Deaf. I am on the board for the Louisiana Commission for the Deaf, and previously I was an educator at the School for the Deaf for about, and I left in 2015. I'm still certified. I'm still a teacher in Louisiana. I've maintained my certification under the Department of Education. Okay, I want to share a little bit about what we have lost here at LSD. It's something that is called the CEASD, and it stands for the Conference of Educational Administrators in Schools and Programs for the Deaf. So CEASD, Louisiana was accredited by CEASD for many years until I want to say 2012 or 2013 or so. I'm not exactly sure of the exact date. But the people from CEASD came, and because the school has to be re-accredited every 3 to 5 years or so, And so some people responsible came to look at the school, and because the school was already accredited. And now if you look at the list, LSD is not there. So obviously something is wrong. The organization, CESD, is an organization that has very high expectation for deaf kids. They are very focused on deaf children. Our neighbors, Texas and Mississippi, have their schools accredited. In total, there are 28 different schools who have received that accreditation from CEASD. So I would like for you to revisit. I'll be happy to give you the website, the link and information about this, because this is very important for our schools to have this, this certification. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Gore?
Hello everyone, I am Jamie Chalice Gore. Most of you know me, I've been coming here for a while. I would like to clarify who I am though. I am a father, I'm a certified educator as well, I'm an advocate, and I'm an activist. So I have many hats, many roles. And I really, really believe in education for children to help them become citizens and working in society, pay taxes and the like. I came here from Washington, D.C. I was at a national rally as well, and it was related to education, of course, access to communication and to jobs, but we were fighting at the federal level. We have two senators who were presenting on the platform. And so now coming back to Louisiana, and I missed the RFP, unfortunately. I missed that report last week. But looking back, I remember seeing the results, what happened, before we started coming here and make suggestions and complaints to you all. We could have saved $154,000 because those reports gave you the same thing that we told you if you only had used the experts that we had here in Louisiana. Now, I'm not here to criticize any one of you. Of course, we all benefited from what happened. But I please believe in our deaf expert in the deaf field, because we know what we're doing. We know what's best for the deaf students of Louisiana. You people, you know how to work together. Now here in Louisiana, like Lisa mentioned, we are shed the spotlight on the special school district, and we're going to need to hire a person. Obviously, we're going to need somebody who knows how to communicate in sign language, not somebody who's vaguely familiar with deafness. So now of course we shed the spotlight on several schools, but I'm going to speak obviously more about Louisiana School for the Deaf. We need to replace administration. We need to have people who are more competent in this position, and that's how things will change. Instead of using the same modality and the same people in the same place, we really need a change. We need new administration. Please believe what I'm telling you. It's not just a matter of favoritism. We want the best service for our deaf children. I mean, your deaf children as well. They are part of your state, the state of Louisiana. And I want you to take that very seriously. We have to be accountable for what has been done and the result. And again, thank you so much for your work. I really appreciate working with you, and I hope that we can continue with a good relationship. And I hope you all have a fantastic day. And again, if you have any question, I'm here.
Thank you. Board members, do you have questions? Ms. Edmondson?
Just a comment. I just want to thank all of the advocates that are here and all the advocates that have worked with us for 9-10 months, I believe. I believe that what you were saying is what was evidenced by the evaluation that we got by the outside consultants, and I'm very, very happy about that. I want to also thank Superintendent White, because he was very forthcoming in his efforts to listen and to really glean from what you were saying, and I think that we're off to a really good start with our evaluation, and look forward to working with you in the future.
All right. Thank you. Noted. The applause is noted. Mr. Centel, do you see the applause? Thank you. All right. Board members, any other questions or comments? None. All right. Any objection, board members?
Dr. Bofi.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Ms. Edmondson has just stated. These individuals have also come to SEEP, which is the Special Ed Advisory Council, to make their voices heard, and I so appreciate it. And thank you, Superintendent White, for adhering to this, and I think they're happy that we can move forward. Thank you.
All right, board members, any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 38. Item 4.6, consideration of an update report on the Advisory Council on Student Behavior and Discipline. The department recommendation is to receive.
Is there a motion to receive? Thank you, Ms. Orange-Jones.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Davis. Superintendent, did you want to start this one?
I think the report speaks for itself, and I'd welcome any questions or comments.
Okay. We do have some public comments. Mr. Fleming and Mr. Carter. Those are our only comment cards? Okay.
Good afternoon. Looks like Mr. Fleming has given me the okay to go. All right. Okay with that?
Yes, sir. That's great.
Certainly want to thank you, Chairwoman and BESE board members and the audience. We appreciate the effort and time put in by the Advisory Council, especially the work groups. I would like to voice some concerns, though, regarding the recommendations for your consideration and review. Several of the proposed changes will weaken what we look at as the Teacher Bill of Rights as it exists in statute today, and that's statute 17-416.18. We saw that numerous studies noted that for PBIS to be successful, teacher buy-in was paramount. Creating a statute that eroded the current statute that support teachers will not do that. The need for teachers and administrators to identify resource shortages in the areas of staffing, space, and supportive services to reduce or eliminate impediments to reducing suspensions, we felt wasn't addressed as much in this particular section. School funding has been at a standstill in Louisiana and is likely to remain unchanged in the near future. We should be very careful of putting into statute programs that will create unfunded mandates on our already burdened school districts. One study shows that schools rely on parent conferences more than any other single intervention in response to disciplinary infractions. When parents are involved in the conferences as part of the solutions, there is a greater possibility that the child will not be suspended or have recurring suspensions. We certainly need our parents to participate in this process. Some proposed changes, for example, parents not being required to attend meetings when students return to school after suspension, could limit the ability of teachers not to meet with parents to speak to the issues that students exhibit in terms of their behavior or emotional problems in the classroom. And we hope that you would take this into consideration as you contemplate this particular policy around behavior.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fleming?
Thank you. I'm Sean Fleming with the Developmental Disabilities Council, but I'm here as the chairperson of the Advisory Council for Student Behavior and Discipline. I kind of wish I would have spoke before, Larry, but because it probably would have clarified some things to him. But we've spent a lot of time working on language that we felt would collectively improve information in the main discipline law. I think we had 13 meetings altogether. We tried to make it all inclusive. There were a lot of compromises. He pointed out some issues that were discussed, but in the end, the legislative session starts today, and bills had to be pre-filed a couple of weeks ago, so we were behind schedule in submitting anything for this year anyway, and I kind of knew that a couple of months in advance. I was curious of how this would all happen, and as it panned out, some of the staff and the legislative education committees informed us it wasn't even the language we had wasn't in the right posture, and they recommended we we have them assist us. So my recommendation to you is to not even necessarily endorse this as it is, although most of these things have been hashed out. There are obviously a couple of other things we need to continue to work on, and we will, because what the intent is for, by the time y'all and the legislature gets it, all these discussions have been hashed out beforehand is our intent. And it's difficult given the sensitivity of the topic and the enormity of the task. So my recommendation is that y'all direct the department to ask that we reach out to the legislature for next year so that we can avail ourselves of their staff and they can help inform us of some issues with putting it in the right posture. Because without that assistance, we spent a lot of time, and they said, well, even some of the key things y'all were doing, y'all weren't going about in the right way, and they would advise us to do it a different way. So that's my suggestion and recommendation to you. It doesn't have to be done now because they won't touch it till after the session's over anyway. I would like to point out that all of this is written in the 2017 report, the annual report of the Advisory Council of Student Behavior and Discipline, and it starts, on page 2, and some of the key things I want to note is like on page 4, the Advisory Council of Student Behavior and Discipline agreed on some major principles that went into this to align the discipline law with the school model master plan information, because some of those things seem to be not aligned as well as we would like. To remove explicit zero tolerance policy mandates. I will say on that one, we drew the line when it came to firearms and drugs. So it wasn't absolute for sure. To ensure that all disciplinary statutes apply to charter schools. To identify current areas of current law that are best left for rules instead of statute. So we were recognizing and we kind of tried to remove some things that it still kept with the spirit of what we were doing, but maybe it would be easier to put into a rule form. And then the last one is to establish an appropriate role for the Louisiana Department of Education to provide leadership and support for schools with regards to student behavior, discipline, and climate. So with that, I just ask for you to consider recommending the work moving forward so that we can prepare for the 2019 legislative session, and maybe we can have some language at that point, at that junction.
Thank you. Board members, do you have questions, comments? Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, Superintendent White, is there an issue if we move to continue the work, move it forward? Is that what we would do anyway?
Yeah, that's been our assumption, is that it's ongoing work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will look at next legislative session for any changes that would be made.
I think for the reasons that Mr. Fleming is describing, it would have to be. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other board members with questions or comments on this one? Okay. Board members, do you have any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 82, item 5.1, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 118, statewide assessment standards and practices regarding LEAP Connect scaled score ranges. The department recommendation is to approve as notice of intent.
I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. Orange-Jones. And a second by Mr. Davis. Superintendent, do you have any comments about this one?
Yes, members, this assessment, as you know, after we went through the whole English language arts and mathematics standards redesign process, that then, and you were here for the whole committees and such, going back a couple of years, that change in the standards necessitates not just changes in those standards, but also changes to the extensions of those standards for students who have significant cognitive disabilities. Students who have historically been called Law 1, or they take the Law 1 assessment. LEAP Connect is the effectively new version of Law 1, and over the last year it's been in a field testing mode. That field test having been conducted, we're bringing it back to you, as typically is done, to place the cut scores into the bulletin. And what that means is that having verified which questions effectively are valid, which questions are reliable, we have created with a bunch of other states an assessment that we now need to identify where are the levels at which we call proficiency and so on and so forth. We did go back to, going back to a discussion we had last time, this assessment is required under the law for students, roughly 1% of students, or a maximum of 1% of students. We right now in Louisiana are a little bit, as many states are, a little bit above 1% in that category. Nevertheless, this is given to a very small subset of students and will continue to be across the state. The one thing I would note about the cut scores, because getting into all of the statistical reasoning behind where the cut scores are set is quite a cumbersome and lengthy process, is that these are the same cut scores that other states in the consortium are using, and that it is on that basis, collaboratively with other states, that Louisiana developed this assessment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Voce?
Okay, so we're setting the cut scores based on what the consortium has done. I mean, we haven't given the first year yet. We field tested items, but we haven't given the assessment the first year. So we're setting the cut scores prior to giving the assessments the first year.
Well, the way that it works on any assessment is that you field test the items.
Right.
Based on what you observe of which items are validly measure the question that they're asking and reliably measure the question that they're asking, meaning it's you get what you asked for on the question and you get it consistently. The claims that back those questions, meaning what you actually wanted the student to achieve, you can put together and say, okay, across a number of questions, this is the score that reflects what a proficient student achieves, what a student who's not proficient achieved. And based on that, you can set a cut score on the scale. As with every other assessment, and you've done this, for example, with ELA and math assessments, as with every assessment, that's that kind of equation from the claim to the item to the scoring on the item and the field testing of it to the scale and the raw score on the scale to the cut score on the scale is a statistical process, not a policy or a political process. So I'm happy to unpack it for you, but the only assurance that I think I could probably provide you at this level is, having been walked through with psychometricians, special education experts, and others, it is the same cut score that a bunch of other states have seen fit to put into their regulations as well.
Okay, because I thought that when we did ELA and math, the reason the first year scores were delayed was because we were setting those cut scores after the first year.
No, it was we field tested and then set the cut scores. We field tested in 14.
Mm-hmm.
We put the test into place in 15.
All right. What levels, since we have 4 rather than 5 with this, what level is proficient and what, I guess, points are we putting at each level?
Why don't we, Ms. Bagyan, we can talk through accountability implications if you want to. Jessica.
Are you coming up?
We need you. Oh, okay.
Board members, do you have any other questions?
I think you're supposed to tell jokes or something to entertain us in the silence.
Well, I will tell you all that I'm a very proud mother. My son won second place in the state social studies fair. Hey. That's all I got. No jokes.
Since you were a social studies teacher, that makes
Yes,
you proud,
since I was a
obviously.
social studies teacher. It was on the Cherokee's Trail of Tears.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anybody else? The chickens are fine. Oh, how are your chickens, Mr. Garmy?
They're fine. They're getting a new, fancier house soon.
Is it as nice as the girls' playhouse?
It's going to look a lot like the girls' playhouse.
Oh, there's going to be a theme in the backyard.
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for being forgiving for me as I'm getting my act together, returning to work full-time today. So lovely to see you all. The point levels are, level 1 is 0, level 2 is 80, just like basic. Level 3 is 100, and level 4 is 150. And we mirrored that after the way in which we used to score Law 1. So you typically, on the 1% assessment in the past, would see fewer levels at the lowest points, if that makes sense. Basically, a point assignment would start at the top. So if students taking a regular assessment could earn the 150, 180, you would see the same thing here. And so that's how those points were assigned.
So what percentages of kids do you think are going to fall in these ranges statewide based on your field testing and the information, the data that you have?
We don't have any percentages of Louisiana students' performance against those cuts because of the field testing not being the comprehensive form for every child. But we could pull information for you on what other states have seen against those levels, if that would be helpful, and compare that to Law 1 in the past. I'd be happy to pull that together.
Are there any other questions? Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. What's our next item?
Your next item is on page 85, item 6.1, consideration of the recognition of Mr. Javen Bowman, 2017-2018 student representative for the BESE Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee, and introduction of Ms. Georgia Hilburn, 2018-2019 student representative. The recommendation is to receive.
So I have a motion from Mr. Davis and a second from Mr. Rock. And then I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Davis to walk us through this particular one.
I don't really know how we're going to walk through this one, but I feel like I need a microphone in the front and center here. But I do want to take a moment to, I feel like we're not, can I do it from here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Protocol?
Yeah, and then we'll go downstairs. We'll go down there and take a picture after.
So, stand up for this, so you can hear me okay. Mr. Bowman, go ahead and stand up for me. So this is a little token of appreciation from the BESE board, the department here, for your time serving on the board student representative. But thank you so much. Mr. Bowman has been an exemplary student, and it's an honor for us to have him on this board. We've passed a lot of information back and forth over here. I know he's been asking other BESE members for information and some perspective and feedback as he's gone, but he's a leader in his school and a number of different activities. FBLA president, his student council as such, got him here, very active in his church. And looking forward to, I believe, attending LSU, is that correct? And double majoring? Yes. All right, so he's not slowing down in any way whatsoever. So it's been an honor to have someone from District 4 representing this board as well. And Captain Shreve, I see we have your principal here, who ought to be doubly proud because we're replacing you with someone else from her school. So we're really, really proud of that. But again, thank you so much for your time. We're very proud to have had you up here with us. And I believe I'm turning it over to you at this point to recognize our new member.
This maybe all right. So our new member her name is Georgia Hilburn. Come on, Georgia. All right. She's a junior right now. Club she's involved with is the club she is involved in is Cliffs Bowl, Beta Club, Z Club, National Honor Society, Youth and Government, Student Council, Varsity Soccer, Cross Country, and Track and Field. She is the Spanish Club president, cross country team captain. She's been student council senator. I worked with her ever since I've known Georgia since middle school. Worked with her since junior year. We started going together to talk to other middle schools to try to get kids to come to our school, and that's how we kind of got close. Honors she's had. She was our Hobie delegate. She's our Carson Scholarship recipient. She's a Scholastic Gold Key recipient. She won the Social Studies Fair first place regionals overall. She won the Social Studies Fair second place in state sociology. I'm sorry. She was Science Fair Southport Spark of Curiosity Award recipient. All regional cross country, all district track and field, Z Club Volunteer of the Month, and Captain Shreve Distinguished Scholar. So she has done a lot.
Yes, we'll go down and take some pictures. And this is the end of the meeting, so I think we could all go down and take pictures, board members.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and her sister 2 years ago was the Louisiana State Student of the Year.
We'll go ahead and adjourn and then take the pictures if that's okay with you guys. This meeting is adjourned. Let's go take our pictures.